if you want to get your book done and not obsess over it and actually make it a reality, this is the process that I've used to write some of the best-selling books in the country. Welcome to the Dean Graziosi Show. All success starts right here. So what you're about to learn is how I write a book in a fashion I've never heard before, that I think it's the most impactful. It's the way to get the most out of you at the quickest speed, to get the end result that creates an amazing book, but then how to take the energy, just as much energy to create the book, and how to create marketing to potentially get this book to be a top seller on Amazon, be a top seller and get it in people's hands. Because at the end of the day, it's not about, this is what I believe at this phase of my life, about being the New York Times best-selling author or you know, going around and doing you know, book signings. It's about getting your knowledge in someone else's hands so you can impact their life. This isn't going to be a long training. This is right to the point. How do we get your book out of your mind, on the pages, and out to the world? So let's start with naming it. Name it. I mean, I named The Underdog Advantage. I knew I was going to write this book about 4 years ago. I just knew that there's so many underdogs, including me, and those that are successful take that and made it into their fuel, not their anchor. So I had the underdog advantage in my mind. And then what I did, and this is the part that I really want you to think about, I call it compile your riffs. Now, naming it, I blew right past that because that's you, that's personal. Think through names. Look at other really great names of titles. Don't name, I don't like really long names. Like everybody says your names are brilliant. Not really. I come up with the idea, the concept, and I think through what in a couple of words can make someone get it. My last book, Millionaire Success Habits. These are the success habits of what I believe are the most successful people on the planet, including the habits that I've created to make success. Underdog advantage. Most people feel like an underdog. I don't think it's a disadvantage. In fact, I know it's your advantage. Underdog advantage. Think through what you're going to do, come up with a great name and a subtitle. And all you want to do, like, I don't want to oversimplify it. You want people to be able to look at your title and go, oh, I get what that book's about, right? Sometimes people get way too creative and it doesn't make sense. So name it so you can live it. Then here's the next part. On your phone or in your journal, my journal is always right next to me. Start compiling a list of your riffs. Riffs are things you talk about that inspire, motivate, and you use to tell stories when you're talking to other people. So for me, my riffs in the underdog advantage. My riffs, and this is the part that you'll see right coming into number 3, the third section of what I want to share with you. My riffs are the things I love talking about. I love talking about that underdogs have nothing to lose. Like when you're an underdog, you don't have a bunch of eyeballs on you. You can just go for it. When you're privileged or you got a big company, everybody's like analyzing and judging. When you're an underdog, it's like, I'm just going for it. It's David and Goliath. It's time to be David. Who cares what people think? I always thought about that. Number 2 is the power of you can't. I've been thinking about that for years. When people used to tell me you can't, you're not smart enough, you're not rich enough, you don't live in the right area, you don't have the best background, you don't have the right education, I used to think, maybe I don't. And then one day, I was so blessed, it switched. And I used a process that when people told me they can't, it actually fueled me. It turned everything into like rocket fuels. Like, you tell me I can't? That means I must. Say you can again. Help me out. Keep telling me I can't. Watch. Want to have envy? Want to have jealousy? Watch me go do this. Okay, so I'm being a little passionate here, but that is a riff. Underdogs act fast, improve quickly. Underdogs are resourceful. They don't have resources, so they gotta learn to be resourceful. Now, these are riffs that I would talk about to people all the time. These are things I like to riff on them, right? Like a music riff. I like to talk about them. So when I first named the book, then in my phone, I'm gonna tell you how I did it. In my phone, in my notes section, I just created my next book, right? And I'd say, I named it. In my notes, I put underdog advantage, and then I'd say, oh, talk about the power of you can't. Talk about the power of being resourceful. And I'd list them, right? Now, they became my riffs, but guess what they really became? They became my chapters, okay? Follow along here. They became my chapters. Now, my riffs were written in here. I could literally go back in my notes of 2 years ago and find all of the chapter heads that were in here. And then here's what is the biggest game changer of all. In the old days, when I wrote my first couple of books, when I'd write in like sequence, and I'd say, what's the next chapter? And then I'd write, in this chapter, like, oh, it was so heavy. Now I got these 7, 8, 9, 10 riffs that are actually my chapters, and I know I love to talk about them. So what do? I go in to my phone, and I go to the place where you can create a voice memo, right? In an iPhone, there it is, ready? You could just go, hey, this is Dean Graziosi, and right now I want to talk about the riff of underdogs self-educate. Listen, when I was in school and then and I realized I wasn't going to college, I need to find a mentor, and so right now I'm recording this, right? Well, once you have your riffs, because you like talking about them, it's your chapter heads, when you're feeling compelled, when I had somebody tell me that you can't, literally is when I went on my phone to my voice memo and I hit button. It's like, I love when people tell me that you can't. Now, what does that mean for you? You probably had a lot of people doubt you, your family, your friends, so many people. How do you make that into rocket fuel? How do you make that an underdog advantage rather than a disadvantage? Let me tell you the process. Let me tell you a story. And I just riffed in my phone, voice memo, I just recorded that for 45 or 50 minutes, just having this great conversation about the power of you can't. I thought back of a story when somebody told me I can't, and I must, and I broke through on a whole nother level. Then I deconstructed how it worked for you. And then I said, here's a great lesson. And I recorded all that for 50 minutes, and I saved it. And then what I did is I took it and I went to rev.com. I don't own any part of that company, rev.com. And I set up an account, and then all of a sudden I just push my audio to rev.com. And guess what they do? They transcribe it and send it back. Here's the cool part. I didn't try to sit down and force all these chapters one after another. When I felt compelled to talk about self-education, when I felt compelled to talk about persuasion, desperation can turn into persuasion. When I talked about underdogs don't have to care what other people think, or how to act fast, or how they have nothing to lose. When those things felt inspired to me, over a 6-month window, I went into my phone and I recorded that chapter. Anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. One time I sat on the side of the road, I recorded one of these chapters, hour and a half long, just talking. So now I get done, I go to rev.com, I go to the app, and I forward my audio to them. Within a day, they send back the transcription. Now for me, I'm not really great at grammar. I'm just not. So I had someone, and maybe you could do it yourself, I had someone in my office clean up my entire audio, put it into sentences, just to clean it up, not to write words, just to clean up an audio compared to writing. And then it came to me, and then I cleaned them up. Now, on my last book, I had a writer help me clean those up too, just being completely transparent, but I didn't on most all my books, especially the ones I did in this model. I just cleaned them up the best I can. I found, oh, I should have put this piece first, so I may go, oh, I put it number 3, that should be here, so copy, paste, put it up here, clean it up, make it flow. Now all of a sudden, you went from having an idea, a name of a book, you went from thinking, what do I like to talk about? Oh, I like to talk about, let's make them our chapter heads. And now let me just record them. And now let me send them off and get them transcribed. Let me clean them up. Let me move them around. Guess what? You have most of the ingredients for your book. You have most of the ingredients for your book. So now, when you got them all recorded and all transcribed, now you take a look at them and say, what would be the best flow and sequence to put these in order? Right? Should I talk about the power of you can't first? Like when I looked at these, I said, should I put the power you have nothing to lose first or last? Or what about acting fast? And all of a sudden I started thinking about what order. So I had the pieces of the puzzle. Now I decided what order. If it's a non-fiction book or it's a fiction book, you can alter it any way you want. Which part? Do you want to put the end of the story first and tease them and then finish the story like a Pulp Fiction or something crazy, right? You can maneuver these around. So now I was like, this one first, this one second. And then, again, I'm not oversimplifying this. I'm telling you how I wrote my book. After I put the chapters together, then I went in and read the end of one and the beginning of another, of the next one, and I figured out how can I give a lesson and transition really smoothly into the next one. So I'd write 1 to 5 little chapters on how to transition out of one chapter into the next. And now that I have them in order, I just bridged them together, like sewed them together. That's how I like to visualize. I sewed them all together. And then when that was all done, after they were weaved all together, then what is the end? What is the conclusion? I wrote the conclusion of tying it all together, and then for me, I wrote the introduction last because now I know how it's all weaved together. I know my stories. I know how it flows. I know the outcome. I know the conclusion. Now I wrote the intro to the book. Now you're thinking, that was too easy. You just did that whole thing in what, 15, 20 minutes? You're going to teach me how to write a book? Yes. This is the foundation of how to write a book and get it done and get it out of your soul, get it out of your heart. So many people spend years writing a book. Now, listen, once you get that first weave together, you might want to go in and say, oh, I missed this section. Record it. Pick your phone up and go, in between page 27 and 28, I really should have talked about that story when I was a kid when I hit that huge obstacle. So here it is. When I was 28 years old, and you record it, and you send it to Rev, and you get it back transcribed, and then you clean it up, and then you insert it, you copy, paste, and you put it, and then you figure out how to weave it into the story. And then just go back and make sure it's logical. Make sure it makes sense. Make sure you have the end user in mind. What is the purpose of your book? Do you want to take them on a journey? Do you want to create a story? Do you want them to do something? Do you want them to use your tools? Do you want them to change their life? Or do you just want to have them smile? Do you want them to be serious? Do you want them to be sad? Whatever your end outcome is, that's what the story has to tell. So guys, if you want to get your book done and not obsess over it and actually make it a reality, this is the process that I've used to write some of the best-selling books in the country. And now you have my secret. The next part is, how do you get it in people's hands so you can impact their life? Listen, if you're watching me and you'd love to make more money or advance your career, start the company, scale the company, just think differently, reach another level of happiness. I know there's a lot of widgets and magical money machines out there, but again, I don't know if they work. I've never seen them work. It takes a foundation to build a big house. It takes a foundation. It takes the core to build the success you crave, and that's what I obsess on. If you know anything about me with Millionaire Success Habits or what I built with the Knowledge Business Blueprint with Tony Robbins, it's all about building a core for sustainable long-term abundance in your life. I think this is the best book I've ever written, and you have the opportunity to grab it right now. You can go to Amazon, pay $19.95, or go to deansbook.com. That's deansbook.com. We included some instant bonuses that will blow your mind. You got to go see them right now. You got to grab this book. And here's the cool part. I'm doing a special 90-minute training on what I believe is the greatest way to make impact and profit from today's shifting culture, today's shifting economy. I'm ethically bribing you because I want this book in your hands. I can't change your life unless you read this. If you got a little bit tonight, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Imagine having a whole book that can transform your life. I'm really excited about this book. Go to deansbook.com. That's deansbook.com. Grab this book and see for yourself that your disadvantages are actually your superpower waiting to be exposed. I'm Dean Graziosi. Thanks for joining us. Get the book. What's up? What's up? Hey, before you go, you need to watch these next few videos. They're absolute game changers. Hurry up and click right over here and watch them, and I'll see you there.